It's way past time I dispense some indiscriminate justice!
G'day guys, Duckville here. We're going to have a couple of replays today from the FXO Invitational, which has just taken place. It is the 27th of March today, so day 2 of that particular event is actually going to be taking place later on today. So I'm hoping everyone tuned in for that. It's really good fun to watch all of these replays, especially with a lot of these sorts of tournaments popping up every now and then, especially in the last few months of StarCraft. But this is going to be between Mouse Strelok and his opponent over here on the other side of Metalopolis. It says that Kirsch sort of thing, Kirchi, I don't know, man. But it is actually CheckPrime from the Korean team Prime, of course, and Check, a very good player over in Koreatown. He's going to be over here, these sort of close air spots, as we can see with the Overlord just flying over here now. But this is actually the MLG version of Metalopolis, so that actually means that you can't actually block the ramps. So normally you'd, you know, you can see double bunkers or sometimes the triple pylon blocks on the ramps, so you won't be able to do that. And of course, this is actually, this particular map has blocked off having those close ground spots, so that's why they've spawned in this particular location. So CheckPrime just coming over here with the Overlord spots that the command center is down there, and he's obviously going to move it out of the way so that he can't see it. But cleverly, Strelok, being the very good player that he is, sees that one and then comes across and spots the Overlord himself. So these two players are very, very quality players, of course. Strelok winning a lot of tournaments over in EU, winning ESL, Craft Cup, Zotac, a few things like that, just some of those sorts of tournaments, and he was at Assembly and that sort of thing. Meanwhile, CheckPrime, of course, being, as we mentioned, a very good Korean player, has been in the GSL consistently pretty much every season, I'm pretty sure. In fact, made it to the round of 64 last season, and his only real trouble that he's had in GSL is actually against Rainbow, ST Rainbow, who he has had a lot of trouble with in the Season 1 and 2 of GSL, and then finally cleaned him up later on. But as we can see, these guys not doing anything too fancy just at the moment. However, Strelok is going to grab that fast command center, so he's going to have that up and ready to go once he wants to expand. We're going to see if he actually blocks out the drone, and he does indeed. The one Marine just sitting there, making sure that that drone does not get inside, and it does not get spotted, I don't think, no. So you will notice that this is obviously with the new replay system, and of course with all these fancy little double sort of information bars there with the food, gas and minerals stuff there. And it also has a lot of, it's very pretty with all these new sorts of things. So this is a new patch, of course. Things like Infestors got buffed a bit. They'll now absolutely destroy armored units once you get some fungals up. And of course, bunker time was increased, stim time was increased a little bit as well. So do need to keep those things in mind. But apart from that, there are these funky little things, like we can do these cool things with the income and that sort of thing, but do not worry, I'm not going to do this too much because it gets in the way, because in Blizzard's Infinite Wisdom they put it right here in the middle, which really pissed me off. But anyway, we'll turn that off, and there we go. It's all fancy and very pretty, but they really do need to work on how they actually place things. Anyway, back to the game. We've got a Zergling coming out here from Check. He's just going to scout around and actually see what he can find down here. He's going to be able to get inside and actually see that a few Marines have popped out here, and he did see that the bunker was there as well. So he's going to know that Strelok is going to be expanding quite quickly here, of course. The double gas are up, of course, and we do see a factory here from Strelok as well. Meanwhile, over here at Check's side, he's got the Roach Warren, of course, a great response to that early sort of expansion there, and he has his own natural here as well. So I would not be surprised to see if Check actually takes his third pretty quickly, but I suppose he would need to get out some more units before he can do that, because he doesn't want to get hit by some sort of early stim timing if that was the case. But of course, he does not know that there is only one Rax here, and in fact the starport is going to be coming up as well, so the starport will be there to provide some perhaps some assistance with a medevac, or perhaps a Viking will come out and actually come and take out some of these Overlords, which would be really good for Strelok. As you can see, Marine just hanging around here, just making sure no Overlords come through. You do need to be careful at around about this mark, and for the next few minutes that you actually try and keep out Overlords, because this is the sort of point where a Zerg would want to sacrifice an Overlord, get inside, and actually see what tech route the Terran is going. So he's just, Strelok's keeping a Marine out there to keep an eye on that, and as we can see, there is just a lot of droning going on from Check at the moment. Although, if we have a quick look down here, we will see that a Banshee is going to be coming out from Strelok. He's also got Cloak on the way, so we'll probably see 2 Banshees come out, and then we'll probably hit up some Cloak fun for Strelok. And as we can see here, there's that 3rd base, so Check going straight for that 3rd. Obviously, got a few units out to defend, as we mentioned here, and then he's going to take the 3rd and hopefully get his economy up and running a little bit faster than the Terran of Strelok. So a couple of Hellions are out here, of course. As we can see, they're just going to scout around just to see if there's any Zerglings just hanging around being really annoying off to the sides or anything like that. But he is going to actually get up to the 3rd base here, and there's really not too much to defend this just yet. There isn't enough creep there for the Roaches to get around on, so they may have to just be slowly walking their way up here to the 3rd. Obviously, the Hellions will take a few years to actually shoot that hatchery down, but they are going to be there and are going to be putting a little bit of pressure on. And as you can see, 3 Roaches coming up here from Check. He's just going to keep an eye on what is going on up here, just to make sure that those Hellions are kept in check, no pun intended. The Banshee, meanwhile, just came through. I think that was spotted, or perhaps he was just having a look around, but it is going to be a 2nd Banshee in just a second. The engineering bay is going down for Strelok as well. That Banshee is just heading out. We'll keep an eye on that in just a second. Cloak is now done as well, so the Banshee is going to be all dressed up for the party, and is going to be in the invisible cloak of doom. And here it comes. It is going to start shooting at the Queen, see if he can take out the Queen, which would be really good, because of course once the Spore Crawlers are down, actually there is 1 Spore Crawler going down here, 1 Queen bites the dust. More the 2nd Banshee coming in from Strelok. He's doing a lot of damage here. Forces a cancel on the Spore Crawler. Meanwhile, another Spore Crawler going down at the natural, and of course it's going to be, it's actually Spore Crawlers all over the place. He's got 4, 5, hang on, is that 5? Yeah, that's 5 in total. So these Banshees are going to be in a lot of trouble once they get up, and as you can see here, in fact there's 6, so a whole heap of Spore Crawlers going down, finally providing some defense for Check against this double Banshee attack. Meanwhile, if we have a look back at Check's 3rd, he hasn't really suffered too much at all from the Hellions that were running around. I think Strelok was just a bit busy with making sure that the Banshees were keeping on top of things, and of course, as we can see, he's just building up his supply and getting everything prepared, probably looking to take a 3rd in just a moment too as well, as we can see. And the Hellions just running around, probably going to see them try and snipe out some of the any extra Zerglings that were around the map. In fact, they try and hit that creep tumor, but do not get it in time. It does survive with a little bit of health left over, and they regenerate pretty quickly as well. So fire on that tree there. Someone called the fire department, because that's in trouble. Meanwhile, we do have Strelok moving in here. He has put a scan down to make sure he can take out some of these creep tumors. We do have, it looks as if this may be a timing push perhaps. I'm not really sure. It looks as if he's going to back up. Not really too happy with the status quo at the moment, but we'll see if he does push in, and it doesn't look like it. So meanwhile, Strelok getting that 3rd command center up. That's going to be done in just a second. He's going to keep producing some tanks. He's got some Marines as well. We've got an attack up here at the 3rd. The Hellions getting inside and actually roasting up some of those drones like a Sunday barbecue. The Hellions finally getting away there, but it looks as if they will not get too much damage done. There's a few kills on these 3 guys, but they've certainly put a bit of pressure there on the 3rd. So we'll see if Check can actually respond to this by we'll probably need to keep a few more Roaches up here to make sure that that is adequately defended. The attack that was going to come in the front is actually gone. It's switched over to a defensive role, and it looks as if Strelok is actually going to take the gold expansion as his 3rd, which is going to be very interesting to see if Check can spot that and then pull that off. Meanwhile, the drop going on down in the main. There are just a few too many Zerglings here, of course, but they do get, the Marines do get picked up there by Strelok, so he's going to be keeping on top of that and making sure that they do not die in vain. Obviously, a few Zergling kills were made there, but not really anything too fancy. So if we have a quick look at what the tech is happening here, we've got a lair done. We don't have too much of the lair tech though. We do have roach speed on the way, so that's going to be done. And another push is coming in here from Strelok. He's sieged up a few tanks on the low ground, very well protected from any sorts of attack that may come from the top side here. And a couple of, there's obviously the Banshee and a couple of medevacs as well. So these Marines are going to be able to run in here, take some, put some hurt on those, the Queens, the Roaches perhaps, but they will have to run back to the cover of the tanks as well. Another load up has been done, elevating some of these Marines up to the top here. There's still a few more Marines left over on the ground and probably some more rallying up, as we can see here. Yeah, there's some tanks and some Marines being rallied up. Not sure what those Marines are doing. They're a bit gung-ho about what they're doing. Meanwhile, Banelings coming in and actually taking out a lot of those Marines, which was quite awesome to see. And we will see a couple of tanks moving up here to the high ground. This is very, very troublesome for Check. He's going to be having a lot of trouble fending this off if he does actually have a go at it, but I don't think he's going to. And we will see him get pushed right on the main there. The Queen is going to be in trouble if it takes too many more hits. As we can see, it is way down in the health, and we do see a counter-attack from Check. He's swarmed in a whole bunch of Zerglings here, sweeping in from the side, taking out tanks, taking out Marines. This is going to take out a lot of these supporting units. I'm not sure if Check actually knows that the gold is here. He does know, but the planetary is also done on that expansion. Meanwhile, this attack in the front has been mainly sort of deflected. There's not really too much, obviously, that Check can do about this stuff, but the actual Marines inside the base have been removed. Meanwhile, the Zerglings inside, taking out SCVs all over the place. The Marines are not really doing too much to their opponents here. He's sort of just hanging around. There we go. Finally get that micro down on the Marines. Meanwhile, see, that's what's going on. He's got another elevator inside the main. Check is going to be in a bit of trouble here. He's going to need to swarm in. Here he comes with some Banelings and some Roaches and Zerglings swooping in there, taking out a lot of the Marines. And in fact, the Roaches will come and clean up these tanks on the high ground, but a couple are still left over in the low ground as well. Meanwhile, some more Marines. I think this is just some, perhaps, I'm not sure if that's a distraction or just a miss micro from Strelok, but loses a few Marines for pretty much no gain there. Meanwhile, this gold, if this continues to plunder those minerals there is going to be no hope at all for Check, but we'll see if he can pull it off. He does have, of course, a lot of micro. He's got a fourth base going up, as we can see up here, but meanwhile, these Marines are coming into a lot of trouble again, just being very careful. The medevac picking them all up, making sure that they don't get disintegrated by those Banelings. Another tank. These rally points, or I'm not sure if it's the rally points or the hotkeys, are not really doing too well for Strelok there. That tank's just gonna march on through. It's all good. It's just gonna march in there. Meanwhile, at the third expansion, looks as if those SCVs were taken out by the Metalopolis, and a lot of the that's going to be a lot of trouble for Strelok. In fact, no, he actually moves some of them down. So the Metalopolis providing a little bit of counter harass at the side there. He's just going to need to be careful with how he actually comes in with these Metalopolis. He's going to need them to take out the tanks, but the problem will be if those Marines are still alive. There's a lot of Marines here. There are still a few on the low ground as well, but now these tanks on the high ground are a little bit vulnerable now. We'll see that the Metalopolis will come in here, jumping on top of those tanks, and they'll take these few out, and perhaps they'll take some shots at these other ones that are here on the low ground. But this is all very interesting because Strelok's still continuing to push Marines and tanks through the front with no regard for their safety, but meanwhile some Banelings are going to be morphing in. So we'll see if Check can hold off this attack for the moment while he gets the fourth up. If he gets the fourth, I think he may be able to come in and maybe perhaps he'll be able to actually counteract this push. But just look at these units streaming in from Strelok. He's got his macro on like no tomorrow, and we will see the mutas fly inside the main. They are going to come inside and cause a bit of havoc here. We do see that they are taking out some of these SCVs, removing the SCVs off the gas, which is really good. But we do have a counterattack again from the push that Strelok has entered in here, and it looks as if these tanks and the Marines will all be taken out, but this big ball, this biomechanical ball that is sitting down here is still going to be a lot of trouble to take out. And as you can see, a couple of Thors have actually come out as well for Strelok, so he's going to be fine to deal with the Metalopolis. He just needs to deal with these ones that are floating around the tanks up the top here. He just needs to get a few more units up on top of the high ground there, and then he can actually push into the main. As you can see here, it's quite vulnerable for the moment. However, a whole lot of Banelings are actually morphing in. There are going to be a grand total of 21 plus the ones that are already built. There's going to be a total of 33 Banelings up here at this midpoint here in the choke to the natural and the main. But as you can see, once again, Strelok just doing some great movements here with his forces, just pushing them in the top there, making sure that the tanks are covering this large area here. And then we're going to see a counter-attack. There it is. It comes in from the side. Swooping in are the Roaches, the Banelings and everything, but there is just not enough here. That Terran metal is just way too powerful. As we can see, the Banelings attempting to counteract the Marines that were up on the top of the ramp, but it just is not enough. And as you can see here, Strelok once again just still holding this position here, which is a big key to if he's going to win this one. And it looks as if he's going to choke off this this main base, and he's not going to be able to check, that is. He's not going to be able to save this one. I don't think the Marines are running away from those Banelings, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop them. But the Thors taking out some Mutalisks as they fly around, and of course the Thors do great damage against the Mutalisks, of course, because of the splash damage here. The medevac coming in here, holding a couple of Marines in check, and they are going to take out this Queen. I think no, some Zerglings coming across, and the Zerglings are going to save the day here, and you would think this medevac is not going to be having a good ride home. There it goes, and we will see that a little bit of insurgency attack there has been taken out. So we'll see if Strelok can move in here and take out the rest of this base. He comes along to the Banelings, and the Banelings are going to roll back, and they are trying to push back those Marines, but another attack coming in here from the north. It looks like Zerglings coming in as a little bit of a counter, but it looks as if that is quite easily deflected by the massive amount of tanks that are down here holding this position. We've got 4 sieged up, a couple unsieged at the moment, but it looks as if he's going to be able to hold that for the time being. Meanwhile, the Muta's still flying around, trying to be annoying against this gold expansion. This gold is essentially done. A lot of mules have been dropped here, so this is not going to be too much of a consequence if this gets taken out at all. Now, we want to see if Strelok is actually going to try and move up to this third base, or if he's just going to move in and go all in with the rest of his forces that he has. He does have 4 racks up together. He's got 2 factories, he's got an armory in it, and 2 eBays, of course, and the starport as well. So there he goes. He is going across to the third base here. He's going to need to remove this Overlord, which has put down new carpeting on that position. Meanwhile, just back in the main base, Marines still causing a lot of trouble here in the main, and we do have 2 tanks inside now, and a Thor covering for air, of course. But this lair is going to go down, I would suspect, and we'll probably have to see Check build his lair somewhere else, morphing it in some other place, no doubt. Meanwhile, if you just have a quick look up at the production tab, whoa, hold on a second, we've actually got a whole big move in here, taking out a lot of those Marines, but there are just way too many tanks on the low ground, providing way too much cover for the upper ground forces of Strelok. There are a whole bunch more tanks, Marines sitting up here, but just as I was saying, on the production tab, we do have +3 to infantry, weapons, and armor on the way. 24 Zerglings in production. We'll probably just see a whole lot of Banelings coming in. Speaking of a whole lot of Banelings, here they go. Not actually committing there, but the Marines just being very beautifully microed here. Tanks up the back there, providing some cover for those Marines. And this little force here, well, it's not a little force, I suppose. There's a whole bunch of Banelings, Zerglings, and Mutas, which are going to be, I would suspect, moving in just a second, because if they don't, this is going to start leapfrogging up to the natural and that third of Check, and Check is going to be in a whole world of pain there if that does come into effect. Meanwhile, the Zerglings coming through, the Marines getting caught out a little bit there, taking a few hits from the Zerglings and the Banelings, but it looks as if, as we mentioned, the tanks just providing way too much cover. Here it goes, a big attack. He is actually, no, he's not committing. He's just having a game. It's like a game of tennis. It's just going left to right here and back again, but we'll see if Strelok actually starts committing to this. He is moving in now. The Marines in a bad position. They're being caught out. So many Banelings just coming inside, splashing all over those Marines, and of course the splash damage of the tanks providing a lot of friendly fire there. Of course, we will see if Strelok is going to move up some of these tanks slowly. He's just sort of keeping things just sort of very clean at the moment, not really moving too fast. He's got some tanks here up on the high ground, which are going to take out the rest of the buildings that are in the main, I would suspect. Actually going to take out that spawning pool, which is going to be pretty big. But here we go. Looks as if Check is going to come inside again. This is probably going to be a last push. There is just way too much here for him to actually take out. The tanks are now actually, because some of these tanks may be, in fact, in jeopardy because the Thors were taken out. A lot of the Marines were taken out, and it looks as if he's just going to dance around with these Mutalisks, just keeping the Marines at bay, and it looks as if the tanks are going to move forward here because he knows he has to keep the tanks together with the Marines to make sure that they do not go down to the Mutalist fire, but just moving in here, massive line of tanks here, 5 tanks opening up on the 2 hatcheries that are here at the natural, the Marines providing some defense, and more Marines streaming in here. This is beautiful play from Strelok. Just a beautiful, slow, efficient move in with his tanks on the low ground, Marines covering in the sky, and of course the Banelings not really getting too much done here, although as I say that, they actually ripped through a whole bunch of those Marines that were there. Metalopolis, meanwhile, trying to counter against the tanks. The tanks are being whittled down to a total of 3, but still a whole bunch of Marines are still here with a few medevacs as well. And we will see these forces probably, there they are actually going to move back because he's done what needed to be done. We do have Check now on just the 2 bases. He's got some more banelings morphing in here. Still does not have a lair, but he's going to need to morph that in pretty quickly if he wants to get some more useful units up on the field. And as we can see, Middle is flying around. He does spot that the 4th or 5th base, I suppose, is going up here for Strelok, and he's going to take that one out and make sure that that does not come into play. But I think this is just a bit little too late here for Check, and he's going to lose out here once this force moves inside to this 4th base of Check. And as we can see, the tanks just sieging up there. There may actually be a few too many units for Strelok to actually push in against, but no, there's some reinforcements, so it's going to be all good. Banelings, Zerglings coming in from the side, taking out the tanks. Banelings on the tanks, which is not a great idea, but as we can see, the Marines survive if you do that, and that is no good because the Marines have just insane DPS. As we can see here, there's the GG, and Check jumps out of that game. A brilliant push there from Strelok, just as we said, very slow, very methodical, just pushing up here, being very careful, meanwhile securing other bases, getting the gold up first, then getting this 4th base here up in time, and just slowly pushing in, taking out a few of the tech structures, and then coming across to this side here and taking out the only other mining base apart from the one at the 10 o'clock. So brilliant game there. So Strelok goes up 1-0 against CheckPrime, and we'll go into game 2 and see if CheckPrime can fight back or if Strelok is actually going to take out a Korean player in fine fashion. So I'll see you guys in that game. Make sure you subscribe and leave some feedback. Cheers.